You know, I've never had a bad day. You know, you talk about people, I listen to a bad this, but I can't think of a bad day that I've had that what you'd really call a bad day. You know, anything that's bad, it's an opportunity to fix it and be better. We had an airport. It was called Alhambra Airport. It was just Southern California, in East Los Angeles area, near Pasadena. That took me about 15 minutes to fly or to bike to from my home. And I'd go out there and I'd hang on the fence. There's only about 4 flights a day. I do that on weekends. I build model airplanes, flying models, you know, rubber band, that sort of thing. And oh yeah, that was a major hobby. And catch a ride. I'd wash airplanes here and there and get at least taken up for a ride, but I couldn't go much further than that. When World War II was loomed on the horizon and the Navy was looking for young men like myself, I took the opportunity. I saw this poster in front of the post office in San Francisco where I was working, and it said Fly Navy. And it had a number there, a recruiting number. So I called and they scheduled me for a physical, and took the physical and some questions and so forth, some aptitude work, and I passed. And they said, you'll probably be getting a call within 6 weeks to come in and commence flight training. And sure enough, I did, and that was it. You went on to the formal training command, in my case, Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, which had just opened. And the war hadn't started yet, but the station was in building. And I'd put in for fighters. You had an option, or at least you could express it. Didn't mean you were going to get it. I requested fighters. Well, they had just commissioned a new dive bomber squadron, training squadron. And I got picked for that. Oh, I was disheartened. But flying the old Curtiss Helldiver with the top wing swept, and you come up, split your wing flaps, and dive straight down and drop bombs. You had come over 10,000 feet. You'd skid the airplane till the target disappeared right in the crook of between the wing and the fuselage. And then all you did was just push the stick straight ahead, so you're vertical. Split your dive brakes, and you hung there, and your strap coming straight down on accurate, sure. On Pearl Harbor Day and Sunday, we'd gone into a movie house to see the film Dive Bomber, which at that time was popular. We came out of the theater, and there's other cadets and myself, and there's a big crowd of people gathering around the typical cigar smoke stand next to the theater. And walked up, what's going on? I thought, something going on. We'd been attacked at Pearl Harbor. And 5 minutes later, the shore patrol said, come back to the base. Everybody back, recall, bang, back to the base. Well, I was flying dive bombers. The next day I was on patrol out over the Gulf looking for Japanese submarines. My commission in February, and went right to Pacific Fleet. Well, I had the good fortune when I got there, a call came out for anybody that wanted to shift from dive bombers to fighters. Please come up to the chief flight instructor's office. Boy, I went up that ladder like I was on fire, and got my orders were changed from going to bombing 10 to fighting 10, or the Grim Reapers. And so I became a fighter pilot from there on out. Well, with fighter training, of course, fighter tactics and gunnery. So that was a big moment in my life. I look back at the events that defined my life, or the major steps. That was one. My career in the Navy would have never been what it was had I not. So I got about 4 months of fighter training in the little Wildcat. We were really just fighting, in those days, fighting to survive, stay status quo if we could, until we got more carriers and got the Hellcat out there, which made a difference. We had two carriers at the Battle of Santa Cruz, the Hornet and the Enterprise. The Hornet was so badly damaged in our fleet engagement that we had to sink it ourselves. It was dead in the water and listing. The destroyers put torpedoes into it and took it down, and we got the people off. And so we didn't, so that left Enterprise. Well, we'd taken a whack too. We got some real heavy hits, blew #1 elevator out. We took major battle damage. I remember we came up from New Caledonia, where the carrier had gone, went back to, put steel plates on deck and took us up south of Guadalcanal and launched us in to reinforce the Marines. I was on alert, the four of us. Jimmy Flatley was my skipper, myself, Russ Reiser, and one other. And the alert horn went off and we taxied out. Cactus Control was the fighter direction. We had airborne. And told us they had a raid, such and such a bearing, an estimated altitude of 20,000 feet. And we're climbing. Got about out over Savo Island going north and looked down. They were below us this time, the only time in all of my encounters they were below us. And here they came, I guess it was 12 Japanese dive bombers, and it looked like about the same number of Zeros escorting them. Here, one of our people got shot down on takeoff right at the perimeter. Here are 3 of us coming up against 12 dive bombers and what we thought to be 12 fighters. So that's pretty tough odds. What we didn't see was another group of about 12 fighters up in the sun. And from there on, it was not a good day. I got one, and I was just started firing another one, and I got hit. One I didn't see was on my tail. And it got into my oil tank. Yeah, I came awfully close to being knocked down. When I got down, I landed dead stick through the palm trees and got onto the Marston matting at what we call the Lunga fighter strip. And the Marine plane captain that climbed up on my wing said, "Look at this." I had 3 bullet holes through the flap of my flight suit here that had gone right on through and into the instrument panel. And then I got hit with a 20 millimeter that went through the instrument panel and delayed and then blew, but I didn't catch fire. You didn't want to bail out because they'd shoot you right out of your parachute. And so you hung on. But anyway, I got down, got some holes, and but got patched up and back in action in a couple of weeks. So that was my first actual combat experience. It was interesting. I said, I hope it gets better than this. At the end of your cruise, I was ordered home to call new construction, the formation of a new squadron. And it was going to be at Norfolk, and it was going to be F-6Fs. And I said, well, that's beautiful. Then back out to sea again and repeated all this. This time we had this 1-month cruise on Enterprise during the Tarawa campaign, but then a 6 months cruise on the New Hornet when it arrived. If you're familiar with the Turn on the Lights and the Mission Beyond Darkness, a night I'll never forget. That morning we knew the Japanese fleet where it was generally south and west of Guam. Around 3:30, I guess, emergency flight quarters were sounded. I knew what that meant. We found the fleet and we're back to the ready room, and sure enough, up on the annunciator, enemy fleet located in such and such a bearing and distance, and man your airplanes and everything. We're going after them. When we launched, the talker with his blackboard up at Fly 1 holds a new enemy position, another 100 miles further, right off the bat. That meant the torpedo planes couldn't get back, not enough fuel. Half of the dive, they all went in the water. The dive bombers, about half of them. The fighters had I got back with maybe, 10 or 10 gallons of fuel in my fighter. But it was dark and it was black and semi-sea fog and night. And I'll tell you, it was almost mob hysteria. I don't even like to talk about it. People diving at the ship, trying to get down, trying to make landings on cruisers and destroyers. And I was the first one down on the Hornet, had a successful landing. And but we spent the next day going back, traversing the route, the strike route we were on, picking pilots up out of the water, and so we did pretty well in rescuing a lot of those crews. It was called, it was a first battle of the Philippines and Mission Beyond Darkness, and one of the major events during the war. And I was ordered to Naval Air Station Jacksonville on up on the St. Johns River to this IATU Instructors Advanced Training Unit, where we would teach, instruct, senior pilots to be instructors in combat tactics, in my case. And it's while I was there that Washington made the decision to form a flight exhibition team to demonstrate Navy fighter tactics to the public and this and that. And I got called in to write up what I thought I would do if I were doing something like this. So what airplanes I'd pick, and Washington approved it apparently and came back and told me I was the new boss. You're going to be First Blue. That's before we named the team. And I was given a full latitude, pick your airplanes, pick your pilots, set your routine, start your training. I didn't have much guidance, didn't want any to start with. And everybody else thought we were going to kill ourselves, so they didn't want to get near it. And it's just a logical flow and sequence where I got the pilots, got all the airplanes, and went to work. We needed two things. Of course, your piloting skill is number one. Number two, you're in really public affairs or public relations in that mode. I want people that can converse, talk to people, talk to the public, can appear on television, radio, whatever, and at least make a good appearance. And so that's kind of what you look at. So I knew what I was getting when I selected the pilots. And it turned out well that way. And then you start training, and that's just dog work, moving them in, getting closer and closer. Come the early part of June, I was called by a senior member up on the Admiral's staff. When are you going to be ready? When do you think? I said, well, we're ready to. You want to take a look at us and see what we got? And he said, yep, I'll take a Hellcat and we'll go out to an outlying field. I'll land, leave the engine running, have radio. And you come on out and call me when you're ready, and you go ahead and go through your routine. Well, which we did, and it went well, at least in my book. It did go well. He says, on the radio, I'll talk to you back at the main field at Jacksonville. So we all flew back and landed. He got out of his airplane, I got on mine, went over to him, and he looked at me. His exact word, you crazy sons of bitches are going to kill yourselves. Exactly, that's a printer. He said, but I like it. I want the Admiral to see it. How about tomorrow evening after main working hours, we'll close the field and get the Admiral and keep people down along the runway. So we did that, and it went well. So the Admiral thought that was outstanding, so he's 2 stars, and now we got to bounce up to 3 stars the next. And we go over to Pensacola, where the Chief of Naval Air Training headquarters. And we do it over there. And so then, shortened up, went back to Washington, Navy Flight Exhibition Team ready for public demonstrations. From there on out, it was go, go, go every weekend. We had a good first year. We lost one pilot, Robbie Robinson. We shifted to the Bearcat after about 5 shows, and we got new equipment, the Bearcat. And it had a breakaway feature, I think it was the outer 32 inches of the wing. They left real sophisticated engineering. They left every other rivet out. And as you put the load on, rather than to have the wing fail, say, at the root, which would be a catastrophic event, we were too low to parachute. We just sat on it anyway. That outer panel would break off. Well, of course, that would throw you into a rotation. So Robbie pulled a wing on a solo high-performance demonstration before the regular formation unit did its work. And he crashed in front of, I don't know how many thousands, rolled into the field and blew up. We got authority immediately to have the wings fully riveted on all the way around, replace the absent rivets. And it was designed for a 9G failure level, and we were pulling 7.5 G. That's pretty close to failure, but we didn't fail any more wings. So I lost one on my first tour. When I went back the second time in jets, we had a very drastic mid-air collision at Corpus Christi. We'd had to delay the show for a day because of what they call a blue norther, turbulent weather. But the next day came, still turbulent, but we went. And we're probably doing about 400, maybe 4.25, about 200 feet coming down the audience here. And right about here, I said, we started bouncing pretty severely. I said, let's move it out, move it out, move it out. And right about then, whap, we met right in front of the group. Budwood, number 4. I was pitched over. Hawkins came up, got my port stabilizer, pitched me over. I came down on top of number 4, took off his whole nose section. He pitched up, ejected. He had to be at least 2,000 feet. He ejected probably at 1,000 feet, still in his seat, hit right in front of the crowd in the water. And I had no left stabilizer, right full rudder bashed over, tailpipe closed by about and the fuselage, you could see through my fuselage, the rear end, the whole empennage pushed up. So they're screaming at me from the ground, bail out, get out, get out, get out. I can't go, I gotta have 2,000 feet. And I made an election to go to Naval Air Station Kingsville, which was, I think at that time, 8,000 feet concrete, and about 20 miles away, 25 miles, which I did. I got her down at that very high speed and was able to stop it on the runway. That was our second accident in the blues. But opportunities, when you see them, even though your main thoughts and line of work may be something else in school, if you're graduating, go for it. Go for it. Be aggressive. But insofar as the Navy is concerned, you've got to dedicate your life to the Navy and to naval aviation, and dedicate your own performance to being the best that there is. It's competitive. You compete with yourself against. You set a standard naturally. If you don't want to be better than everybody else, if you don't set that standard, get out of it. You know, the competitions are great things. That builds capability and superiority. But whatever you do, have a total dedication to it. Just don't go because you have to go to make a living. Try to get something that you really want to do.